Hi everyone, welcome back to the Can We Get Back to Politics podcast with Cece and Meredith. This is our DEI episode, but part 2, because last time we ran out of time for our DEI episode. So just to recap things we talked about last episode, we talked about what DEI is, which it stands for diversity, equity, and inclusion. But we talked about what it is and some things that it implements, such as ramps for people with wheelchairs or like people with disabilities where they can't walk upstairs, equal pay for all people, etc. And then I talked about like a specific example from a real situation from an elementary school that showed how removing DEI is going to hurt schools and why it shouldn't be removed, and also why DEI shouldn't be considered a problem. And now this episode we're going to talk about sort of like how colleges are handling DEI. So over to you, Meredith.
Okay, so to start off, I found a really interesting article about EdTrust.org and why DEI programs matter to a lot of college students and colleges in general. And so this article was kind of just talking about, or it was from a perspective of a male college student at the Community College of Baltimore County. And he's a man of color. And he was just saying how he went to school, everything was great, but he felt like something was missing. And so since he felt kind of lost or just felt like something was missing, he joined a program, the MSSI, which is a Male Student Success Innovation. And he realized that he could be a part of something and join a program and just be surrounded by other people like him, like successful students, because he said that his first semester he had a 3.8 GPA, which is amazing. And he felt like he received so much more support and guidance and assistance from so many people than he did in the past 6 months that he was at school. So I think that kind of just shows how like having these different affinities and different DEI programs, like, or programs in general, just help so much for kids to think that they fit in, or just think that they have a community to be surrounded by. And it also states a few examples of what DEI programs can do, which is create an open, welcoming campus racial climate for students of color, introduce students to new opportunities like this student, obviously, expose students to diverse people and environments. And I think that's super important because when you obviously go to college, you're surrounded by a lot of more people. I mean, depending on how big of a high school or college you went to or are going to. But I think obviously college is usually bigger and there's usually more diverse people. So I think that college, you really need to branch out, because when you're going to high school, you're going with people who grew up in the same area as you and almost thinking probably have a lot of the same values as you, but going to college, it really exposes you to different things. And I think that's super important. And I also think that's a lot of stuff that DEI can do. So I think that's super important. And kind of just creating networks, keep students more engaged in school. Obviously, this student was doing amazing in school that I just gave an example of, but I think it also just helped him feel like he fit in more at school, which is amazing. So he probably did even better the next semester. But I think it really just develops students at colleges and helps them explore more, and also when you're at college, there's obviously more diverse people, and it might be hard to find people who are like you or from the same places as you. And I think having also those opportunities to connect with the people that you share the same values with is also super important. So yeah, so I kind of wanted to talk about something a little bit different, just about how some schools are acting after Trump's DEI orders, and also just what Trump is trying to do. So obviously Trump has signed a lot of executive orders to ban DEI from the federal government and schools. I think we all know that, but this is kind of also just what schools have done, and a lot of schools are standing up, like I was saying on our last episode about Georgetown, and also how Trump is trying to ban DEI from private institutions, which is not legal. So, yeah, but also just how Georgetown was standing up to Trump and his administration, because they care for their students, and it's a private institution, and they believe in DEI. So I think that's great. But also, like, North Carolina's public universities are no longer required to take classes related to DEI to graduate. There's a lot of stuff that's happened with many different schools that has changed a lot. Like the University of Colorado took down its main DEI webpage and posted a new page for an Office of Collaboration. So I think there's a lot of changes that are being made to schools because of obviously Trump. And also these are public universities, so this is obviously allowed legal.
Yeah, I agree with you, Meredith. And I think the hard part is, like, with all the public institutions, they don't have the ability to say, like, to, like, go against what Trump, like, they have to do what Trump says with DEI and stuff. And, like, it's obviously amazing how, like, private institutions are able to say, like, when Trump threatens or the government threatens to, like, not give the graduates of a certain private school going against the new DEI policies, like, threatens to not give them those students jobs, like those graduates jobs, like, and they're like, we don't care, like, the school, I mean, says, like, we don't care, like, we'll find them jobs elsewhere. Like, I think that's good, but it's upsetting that, like, only private
that happened at
schools
Georgetown,
can
by the way.
Yeah, well, yeah, okay, yeah. I was that was an example we talked about last time. I was just like, yeah. But anyway, it's upsetting that, like, public institutions, like, are forced to comply with, like, the new DEI policies.
So around the country, many universities and colleges have begun to scrub websites and change programming in response to President Trump's widening crusade against diversity and inclusion. But much remains unclear about the legality and reach of President Trump's new orders. So obviously, I think there's a lot more to come.
Unfortunately.
But
unfortunately, there is.
I just wanted to also kind of just touch on how a lot of universities are having to take away DEI programs. And like I said, for an example before of this guy who found an affinity per se,
like found a community,
that he really felt supported by, and it was like that piece of the puzzle he was missing at college.
And it's a good thing. It, like, DEI was like a light. It was like good for spaces, and taking it away is doing just way more damage than, it's not doing any good. It's doing solely damage, and there wasn't a problem in the first place. So I'm not saying this is what I believe. I just think people think this, like, when they're making the argument against DEI, that, like, DEI, like, when it was originally meant to, like make everyone equal, it's making people who are, like, minorities above, not, like, the majority. And so in that way, it's making stuff unfair. But I don't think that's necessarily what's happening at all. And I think DEI is making equality, and not only that, but like shedding light. That's sort of a weird term to use, but like shedding light onto, like, issues in like the issues of inequality, and, like, how, and, like, I think, like, I know, like, at school when we have talks about DEI, like, it's important to hear, like, how things have been unequal or unequitable in the past, and, like, how we need to work together to, like, not make it that way, to change that. And so that's also why DEI is important. And so, like, yeah, I just want to add one more thing to what I just said, because I don't think, and this is, like, after the fact, because I don't think I articulated my, like, what I was trying to say well enough. But I just also wanted to say how, like, I don't think celebrating, but also, like, hearing about the history or, like, the challenges of, like, a certain group of people or, like, a certain minority takes away from the majority or takes away from other minorities. Like, I think there's a like celebrating and, like, trying to, like, spread, like, I use the term shed light on, but, like, that's I don't know how to phrase it correctly, but, like giving attention to minorities is not taking away from the majority. It's not, like, it's just spreading awareness and also celebrating other groups that are different from you. And like, I don't think people should feel like that's taking away from themselves or their own identity. Like, it's not doing that. It's just trying to bring everyone up to the same level and like make sure everyone gets the same amount of attention and the same amount of attention they deserve. And yeah, that's all I wanted to say. I just wanted to add on to that quickly because I don't think I said it well enough the first time.
Okay, I also kind of wanted to go back to another example of students and teens and how they're feeling about all this DEI stuff. So there's an article by Teen Vogue talking about how DEI programs and colleges is like a really big thing for students and thinking about their college decisions and applications, because obviously a lot of schools are getting targeted and most public schools have to take away DEI now, and most students now aren't scared to speak up and want education that's diverse, and obviously like they want a good education that they can learn new things and not just have stuff that they already know about from their old community, and also
gain different perspectives.
Yeah. And so a quote from a student who was thinking about college said, "One of the biggest scares or concerns I have right now is how they're defining everything as DEI." That's incredibly scary, because what is that going to mean if professors aren't able to mention alternative perspectives in their teaching, or if they even mention a different type of theory that doesn't align with their normative perspective? And I think this also kind of goes back to what Cece was saying about the other teacher, because obviously, for no reason do I think that putting up a poster of kids like that is a different perspective. And this is this student is saying now that a big part of their college decision is being able to have an education where the professors can talk freely and where the students can talk freely without it being called not fair, too much of a minority, why are you talking about your own opinion? Obviously they want to learn new perspectives, like you were saying, and stuff like that. So I just think that's obviously coming from multiple students. They think that DEI is super important, and I'm guessing that this person and also her friends probably are thinking about the same thing for college decisions. And honestly, this is something I would think about too. So
sorry. Yeah, Meredith, I completely agree with what you just said. Actually, I was about to say the same thing when you read that quote from the article. I was going to tie back to what I talked about last episode, and I obviously won't restate what you said, but just to add on quickly, I think that also goes back to the idea that it shouldn't be considered a political opinion, which is what the principal told this teacher from last episode, if you listened. That it shouldn't be considered a political opinion that everyone is welcome somewhere. Everyone should be welcome somewhere. No matter your gender, race, sexual orientation, sexuality, etc. Anyway, I liked the connection you made there, and I agree with it.
Thank you so much for listening to me and Cece's podcast, episode 6 about DEI. And we hope you join us for the next one.
Bye.